Get your children started on chores when they're willing but not able, before they're able but not willing. Build up some tolerance for our children not being happy with us all the time. We actually have to be able to tolerate that as parents. There are parts of life that are boring, monotonous, tedious, and we need our children to have the ability to bring energy to jobs that aren't fun. They'll do better in life.
Hey, kia ora, welcome to Parents We've Met. It's always lovely when people come in here, have some time with us. So I appreciate you jumping onto our podcast. I am Dayna, one of your hosts. I've got 2 primary age kids. And at the moment, something that I'm working on is saying no. Somehow I have ended up managing my son's basketball team, which I think is going to be good. He's doing 3 sports. So I'm like, I know I need to probably, step up for something. Also, this weekend we're going to visit puppies because I had promised we'd get a dog at some point and my kids are wanting to cash in on that promise. So no is probably something I need to start using a little bit more. Anything that you're working on, Jenny? You can introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm Jenny Hale, thrilled to be here. I'm a mum of 2 adult kids and I've got 4 grandchildren ranging from 2 to 15, and that's pretty awesome that we get time to spend with them. But I've been thinking about puppies as well.
Really? Are you going to get one?
Well, I'm going to visit some. And I don't know if that's a great idea, but I have got something jacked up just to visit, and I think maybe I'll be content once I've just held a puppy again. And
can we do this together? Them. Can we go get puppies that are siblings, and then we can do visits and this is the whole
sharing. You need somebody who'll share.
Or we could get one, and then we could share it between our homes, and then it's not the same responsibility.
Yeah, okay, we live a long way apart. That's all.
Okay. Moving along.
Yeah, moving along. Today we're thrilled to have Kristin Ward with us again, and we're on the coach's couch. We're doing another episode, and Kristin, I'm really interested to know if you're working on any no's in your life and if you're working on anything new.
I'm certainly not contemplating a puppy, not at all. For me, I'm working on trying to read more books. I just had this feeling like my attention span was just impaired like everyone else on the planet, and maybe it was I'd been on the, scrolling too much or something like that, because I just found I couldn't get into books, and I just have found that for a while. But what I've discovered is it's my eyesight. So
you just couldn't see the book.
I'm late 40s. I have now got myself some glasses, and I'm finding I can get into books again. So I just think I was subconsciously working really hard when I was reading.
Yeah.
So that's been fun. I'm trying to read each evening.
That's so cool. I've been reading more, and one of my kids came into the room and was like, Mum, you can read. They didn't even think that because I hadn't been modelling it. Look at you, Mum. Good job. So reading is a cool thing.
It is.
Last week we talked about independence, building independence, which was such a great listen. I've listened to it a few times. There was so much gold in there, Kristin. And one thing you mentioned about building independence was around chores, and we just touched on it. But I thought it'd be so cool to come back to this, because I think chores is something that can be in the too hard basket sometimes. We don't really know how to do it well, or we think we can do it better, so we just do it ourselves. And then I thought it'd be cool to touch on pocket money and allowances, because sometimes these things can sit together, but maybe they should be sitting apart. So I'd love both of your views on this. So let's start with chores. Is this something that actually parents bring to you guys in the coach's room that they find hard?
Well, from my experience, I wish parents did talk about chores a little bit more. I sort of feel like it's got so many benefits, which Kristin will let us know about. But yeah, sometimes it's just the thing left unsaid, and sometimes chores would really connect a family and just do some wonderful things for kids. So I'd love to hear parents say, hey, how do we get kids to do chores?
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, I think some parents definitely come along and they're quite worried that they're raising an entitled slob who's going to be such a annoying future flatmate or family member. So that's some parents. And then I do think as well what Jenny said, that there's probably quite a lot of people who admit their children aren't really doing anything at all around the house. And so, something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, we have mentioned this helps with building independence, but I mean, there is a lot of research. There are a lot of benefits. What are some of those? Let's sell why we should be doing it first. What are some of the benefits for getting our kids involved in helping?
Sure. So there's a correlation between involving kids in housework and kids completing their education, getting on a career path, forming better relationships with family and friends, and actually they're less likely to use drugs. So that's a lovely little compelling list. But what
Because they've got so many chores they're doing, so they can't go anywhere.
Too busy. But what I think this is about is I think that parents who can get their children doing chores are parents that bring some backbone to the parenting role. It's not actually easy to get kids to do things they don't want to do, and I think that parents that have the ability to be firm are having, that's what the correlation is about, I think.
That's awesome. In terms of what age, parents will ask this in a coaching session, when should I start my child on chores? What's the perfect age? Is there a perfect age?
I mean, I just think from the moment they can stand up. They're not very helpful from the moment they can stand up, but there's just this lovely window with young children when they want to be with us. If we're cooking dinner, they want to stand on a chair and watch or help or taste or peel some carrots. If we're hanging out the laundry, they want to hand us the pegs. And so we can start from so young just saying, you are such a help. You are such a big help. Thank you for your helping. And just get them involved. Could you help me bring in the shopping bags from the car, please, buddy? Just involve them as a really organic, normal part of everyday life from day dot.
Yeah, because you say as soon as they can stand, but actually it's not even, chores probably puts it in this whole other area, but that's just being part of the family and helping out and little things, because they do like to model and mimic you. And
100%.
Yeah.
And it's probably remembering that it will take longer if a child is lugging in the shopping and they're dropping something on the way. But they are getting this amazing experience of contributing, that they're part of the family and that chores is what you do, not something that's sort of extra.
And I think that brings in, I love the language helping rather than chores or housework. That kind of sounds like drudgery and boring. And but the word helping, it's sort of relational. They're helping mum or helping dad. And even if they're not helping, I remember my little one got a toy lawnmower. He'd just learnt to walk, and that was one of the things he could push when he, it helped him to be steady as he walked. And he would follow around behind my husband as he mowed the lawn, and we would make a big deal out of that. You're such a helper. You helped do the lawn. Of course he didn't, but it was from early. We're building that identity and that concept of I'm a helper.
Yeah, so I like that, sort of helping bring in the groceries, maybe setting the table. I mean, if we're thinking around 6 to 9, those primary, what are some other things that you guys got your kids to do?
6 to 9-year-olds, I think they can bring in the shopping, like I said, from the car, vacuum a hallway or a sitting room, help fold some basic laundry. Probably won't do it very well, but they can do the tea towels and the towels, and you can try and teach them about the t-shirts. Helping unload dishwasher, set the table.
They're great things.
What do you think?
I think, even making their bed, it's easy now. It's a duvet usually, jammies under the pillow, putting some toys away, and sometimes giving them you do the books, I'll do the cars or whatever. But yes, anything that is just a function in the home, it might be wiping the bench. It might be, bringing in the washing and getting on a chair. Sometimes we stall because we think, you need some assistance there. But I think if we give the assistance to help them do it, then that's a real win.
Yeah, and then thinking teens, I mean, I love the idea. I think Sheridan mentioned this too about, like her teenagers, they're in charge of making 1 or 2 meals during the week. And what are some other things that they could be doing? Because sometimes it's just actually cool sharing ideas, because you listen and you go, actually, they could be doing that, or hadn't thought about that.
I mean, a teenager is technically as capable as an adult in terms of their body size and strength, but it's the skills, isn't it? Like, they can easily put on a load of washing or be in charge of their own laundry, but we do need to show them the steps of how to do that. Mow lawns, clean windows,
They could probably arrange, the shopping, work that out. And I think that quite a few families are starting their kids on cooking and getting them, the teenager, to actually be in charge, first of all, of part of the meal and then the complete meal. So I remember back in the day with our kids getting, what meal they were going to cook. And it would be, on a piece of tatty little paper in the pantry. But they got better at cooking spaghetti bolognese or whatever. And they were allowed to be in the kitchen. And it was messy. I remember the lack of control I felt with too many dishes, or maybe not a recipe being used, or maybe not even a meal I liked. And there is this need for us to give something away when we get our kids to contribute.
Yeah.
I remember actually intermediate school having to do a test in home economics about the order that you do dishes in. But I still remember, actually, I hadn't really thought about, I'm not going to do the pots and pans first. You start with the glasses, and then maybe you're doing the cutlery, and there was a bit of an order, and we got tested on that. But if you're not being shown these things, if we're just assuming that, of course you do the glasses first because they're not as dirty, or of course you're not going to put the pink shirt with the white shirt, we do need to take them through it.
Breaking it down. The other thing I think with teenagers is a helpful tip is it really can help to give a bit of a window of time where you're asking them to do something. So sometime in the next 15 minutes, could you put the bins out on the road, please? That just plays a little bit more into teenagers' need for autonomy and not feeling too controlled. If you're standing there and demanding you do this right now, you might be creating a power struggle. So that's always a little tip with teenagers, and I think the language, again, of helping people feel part of a team. Can I count on you? We're all going to be late home from work today. Could you get the dinner started? Can I count on you to do that, please? And I think that's bringing in that feeling of I'm part of a team. It makes a difference to the people I love, the contribution I'm making.
Yeah.
And I think that's that kind of culture we're going for when we're talking about chores.
Yeah.
We can be listening to this now about chores and thinking, oh my goodness, I haven't started. I've been so busy. I'm better at these things than my kids. How would you help a parent there?
Oh, for sure. We have an expression here at Parenting Place, which came from one of my colleagues' mothers, and she said, it's get your children started on chores when they're willing but not able, before they're able but not willing. and what that speaks to is that there is a window where your children are more willing and it's less resistance. But it is never too late. And yes, you may have a 14-year-old who's never done anything to help around the house, and there will be some grumpiness or some resistance to getting them involved now, but that does not mean you're doing the wrong thing. It is worth the struggle, and I really encourage parents to build up some tolerance for our children not being happy with us all the time. We actually have to be able to tolerate that as parents, and it isn't the funnest part of being a parent that we're asking our children to do something that makes them grumpy. But we can push through. We can tolerate the grumpiness. We don't need them to be totally cheerful and excited about doing the dishes or something like that. But we do need them to do it. And so that we encourage parents. It's never too late, and it is worth a bit of the work.
Yeah.
It's so true. I think in the years that I've done coaching, and we've talked about chores off and on, what I've found is there isn't really any magic. It's not like it's ever got easy. I think for lots of families, the habit gets a little bit more ingrained, but there is a level of resistance that I think we have to accept, that they're not going to say, yay, let me at it. It's more a reminder, or I started to do little, I'd put the job I wanted on a little clip rather than say it out loud because the sound of my voice annoyed one of my teenagers. So there's ways to get through it. But it's never, I think if you're hoping this will just get so easy and everyone will just love helping, I'd drop that expectation down a little bit.
I think too, I remember when my kids were younger and I'd put like a clean-up song and they knew that it was going to last this long. It's, a 3-minute song. Let's smash it out. Let's get it done. And that was quite good. It made it fun and we were all together, working together. But I think now that my kids are a little bit older, I'm like, actually, sometimes these things are just boring and it's okay to be bored and just do it. I'm not going to always put music on and let's have a dance party while we vacuum or, it's just part of life.
And I think both things are true. So I am not opposed to it being fun if you can make it fun. Like and I do think we want, it's a good principle for housework to be kind of high energy, do it together, and make it quite a short duration.
Yeah.
So that one of my sister-in-laws with older kids than me had a great system. She's between dinner and dessert each night. She said, right, 20 minutes of cleaning, and one child would be folding laundry, one child would be vacuuming the lounge, one child would be doing the dishes, and then the family would, and Dad was doing something else, and then the family would come back together.
Doing something else. A chore, though.
No, a chore. I want it to be a chore.
Dad was having a bath.
And then they come back together and have dessert together.
Yeah.
Great. If you can make it fun, awesome. But it's not wrong of a parent if we can't make it fun to still have that high standard and that requirement on your children to do it. There are parts of life that are boring, monotonous, tedious, and we need our children to have the ability to bring energy to jobs that aren't fun.
Yeah.
They'll do better in life.
I love the idea, though, of a 20-minute blitz and we're all in this together. Because sometimes you feel like it's just going to drag on a Saturday morning of getting through stuff. But I think to kind of all be, let's just get it done so we can go to the beach, it's kind of cool.
Then celebrate.
Yeah.
Sort of have something nice to eat afterwards.
And I think the kindy cleaning song is not just for preschoolers. We do that in our house. We say, Spotify playlist, the favourite 3 songs of the family, let's go. And then it's high energy, it's fast.
I feel like we need to send a camera to your house so we can really give a good example of how this works. Hey, I know that you guys really think that these things are just the things you do because you're part of the family and it works better if we all pull our weight. These jobs, these helping lists are things that we don't get necessarily paid for. Is that where you guys sit with that?
Yeah, I think with basic household jobs, we don't want to just have a precedent that we're always giving money for that. It gets quite unappealing quite fast when a child is, you ask a child to vacuum the hallway and they say, oh, how much are you going to give me? It can get on parents' nerves pretty quickly. And a lot of parents, I think, have fallen into that trap. Whereas I think if there's basic household tasks that are just part of helping, just part of being a family, and there's no payment attached, I think that's pretty good starting point. But it's not to say that kids can't earn money. I think everyone likes money, and maybe we can attach it to some bigger jobs that are like a bit more out of the box, like cleaning the car. Or, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that we don't want to make it transactional, where you do the top of the dishwasher and you get 50 cents and then a child's asking you, what about the bottom? How much for that? It can feel very tethered to money and reward. And I think we're wanting to break that apart really and have children who contribute because they just know they're part of the family. And so if you've set it up where you're already paying kids, you're allowed to reset things. So I think you can reset what's going on and say, hey guys, we've decided that this is how we'll do chores in the family. And if there's an additional thing you want for your birthday or something that's a bigger item, we're happy to pay you for that. And I've seen families bring out the thing that the whole family wanted. It might have been a really cool tent. And the children got those bigger item jobs where it was, washing the car and vacuuming the whole house or whatever. And each job was like, a $5 piece of the puzzle, and they made the picture into puzzle pieces.
Oh, wow.
And so they built the whole thing up. And so when it was completed, they all went out and got this thing. And it's such a lovely way for everyone to be part of a big family item.
That's amazing. It's like arts and crafts and,
Yeah, all of that.
I think, too, you need to talk, because my mum will get my kids to do jobs, like the bigger things, but her prices, I'm like, Mum, you've got a little bit too much money in there. I'm like, can we bring it down? Because they'll get, $6 over there and come home and go, what jobs? And I'll go, okay, well, $3 for that. And they're like, go to Nana's.
And I think that's fine as well. Grandparents can spoil their kids and pay very generously, but kids can understand the difference between that's what happens at grandma's house, and in our house we just unload the dishwasher for free, buddy.
Yeah. Let's talk about allowances, because I know that parents want their kids to have money and to start to learn about saving and spending, and some people do that whole thing, and we've just started it. We're on week 2, so it's still new, that my kids get half their age. So I've got a 3-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old that gets $3, and I've got an 8-year-old that gets $4. And we've said this is just something we're giving to you that you save up for different things and you can spend it. Is that okay, or have I started something now that I'm going to start to reset?
Yeah, I like it. Giving children, especially if you're giving them money, I think we need to learn to handle money before they, use a card, because we're too distant from the actual money. And I think, half their age is a good place to start, and go for it.
And I think, as parents, we can have guidelines a little bit about what you can spend your money on. And I know that, one thing I did, and I don't know if it was right or wrong, there's a million different ways of thinking about this, but I used to say no food and nothing that's going to end up in landfill in the next day. So that they wouldn't just go to the $2 shop and buy complete junk that really offended me. So that was just a little guideline that I had for pocket money. But I think it's great when kids are learning how, they might buy something. I remember one time my son, his money was burning a hole in his pocket and he just wanted to spend it. And he went to just the bookshop, and he found this Lego set that he didn't actually love that much, but he just wanted to buy something. And then he spent all his $30 on this little Lego set, and he got it home and he's really disappointed that he'd just spent all his money on that. And you're like, that's actually a good lesson. That it takes a long time to save $30, and it's very quick to spend it, and buyer's remorse is real. Those are good lessons for a 6-year-old to learn, or whatever. Yeah.
Even my 8-year-old actually bought something from like a $2 shop, and it did break that day. And now he actually doesn't want to go there, even though he knows it's cheaper, because he knows it will break, and then you'll be disappointed.
Way of learning it.
So many wonderful life lessons can happen via this. Letting them have some money, letting them learn what it feels like to buy something that was cheap and nasty and didn't last, or it wasn't really what they wanted. I'd love to add just one other thing with the saving and the sharing. And the spending. So there's sort of 3, and sometimes I think we miss the sharing.
Yeah, we do sometimes.
And the sharing is where children learn from an early age that they can actually contribute to a bigger cause, a cause outside their family, a cause outside their own little realm. And so it might be, towards, a child sponsorship, or towards even ingredients to make biscuits for somebody who, you'd like to take something to. And I think we should just keep that one in mind as well.
Yeah, that's lovely. I remember, like at school during the 20-hour famine, the 40-hour famine, and I was been sponsoring ever since high school. And so we still do that as a family, but actually getting the kids involved and actually giving them updates and making sure they're actually part of it. Sometimes we just do these things, but we don't always involve them. So I think it's a really good reminder. I like it. I've also heard one last thing around allowances. As our kids are getting older, this idea of your teenagers increasing the allowance, so it's their going out on the weekends, it's maybe buying school uniforms or buying their clothes. And because I think sometimes, you leave, and I remember my friends, like going flatting and going and getting a car that was a bit too expensive that you slowly paid off, or buying a phone that, it's $1,000. And so I think we need to have these lessons at home and have the opportunity to stuff up and figure it out.
Yeah, I love the idea of an allowance. And I know a family that did this with their 2 kids when they were teenagers, probably about 14. And they got to write out all the things that they needed in a month. And the kids put out how much they thought they would require. And it was adjusted because it was a little bit lofty. And then the teens would actually be in charge of bus fare and school uniform and entertainment and their clothing. I tell you what it did in these families, it really reduced the arguments, and the parents stopped topping them up. And that's the thing that parents will find now is that they're always topping it up with, oh, yeah, all right, you can have, and you sort of lose track on how much money you're actually spending, and your team is forgetting how much life costs, and they're just sort of entitled to the money. So I think that it's kind of a brave thing to actually give kids an allowance. And then, you can always rework it if it's not working. Yeah. This family said that their son, in terms of the school uniform, he bought the most hideous secondhand items in the school sort of shop. And so the parent took back the school uniform part of the allowance. So we're always making little adjustments to these things so that they work well.
Yeah. And it's really hard because I just want to acknowledge, like you might be listening and going, there is not much spare money to be giving to our kids. And I know everyone's situation is so different. I grew up just with my mum and, we would have to get top-ups from food banks and stuff. So I also want to be really sensitive and I know that we do the best with what we have and we have these cool ideas, and sometimes it works really well for your family and sometimes you've got to pivot and find other ways to do these lessons.
So right.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. Any last thoughts? Or sometimes we get to the end, you go, oh, I wish I'd mentioned that, or this is one last thing to sort of take away.
In terms of chores, just that real encouragement to parents, you're not doing something wrong if your child's grumpy. It's not wrong of you to have that expectation that your children are contributing. And we also just need to make sure that we've actually taught them how to do that chore. So if they don't know how to, cook an apple crumble, we just need to go through the steps with them, and so there's a little formula when we're teaching something to a child. They can watch us, we can do it together, and then we can watch them. So that's a quick reminder for parents that if there's resistance, sometimes your child's just being grumpy and would rather be doing something else. Sometimes they actually might be a bit overwhelmed and not know how to do it. And so that comes out as grumpiness. So we can check that they know how to do a job.
Good checklist. Yeah.
And I'd say we've got to remember that kids will do it probably not to the standard that we'd like. And so we're learning to let some things go. And we try not to redo it in front of them. If the bench isn't cleaned the way you'd like it, wait till they're in bed before you redo it. Otherwise, kids get to know, it's going to be done again. So, I'll do a very average job.
Good. If you would like to find out more about this particular topic, or maybe a topic we've talked about before, or something completely different, get in touch. Let us know if there's particular topics you want covered here on the Coach's Couch as well, or if you'd like to know more about Parenting Place, parentingplace.nz is where you go.